What's up, everybody? CHM Carnivores here. I hope that you're having a wonderful day and a wonderful week. So I'm very excited about this video and the videos to come. This is going to kick off the first part in a series about what you need to do to prepare when you're first getting your Nepenthes, how you need to get ready for that. It's a beginner's guide, and this is going to be an ongoing series of videos. And today we're going to cover what to do in preparation for your plant, where to get your plants, where to shop, and then the next videos we're going to talk about what to do when you receive your plant, and we will walk through the whole life cycle, if you will, of getting these plants. So stick around. I hope you enjoy and get a lot out of this. See you soon. What's up, everybody? And just like I said in the introduction, I'm very excited about this video and the upcoming videos. This is going to be a series that we're going to talk all about tropical pitcher plants, what you do when you receive them, or in preparation for it rather, what you're going to do when you receive them, how to take care of them, and we're going to walk through the life cycle, if you will, of getting these plants. There's a lot to talk about, and so I want to break this up into a series so that you don't get overwhelmed with like an hour-long video. And I've got my trusty notepad here. I want to make sure that I don't forget anything, so I've taken the time to write everything down, and so that way we can make sure that we leave no stone unturned. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. So the first and foremost, the most important thing is understanding that the environment, and this is a good thing for me and for you, the environment of tropical pitcher plants, also known as Nepenthes, or in some cases monkey cups, depending on who you talk to, is that for a long time they were not readily available. Now these things have been collecting actively since the Victorian era and even prior to that, but it just now recently they have become readily available almost on a global scale, and so there is a ton of options out there that will allow you to buy these plants. And what I want to do is walk you through that landscape, give you the ones that I tend to buy from, and give you pointers on what to look for when you are purchasing them. So who do I go to? You want to look for reputable sources. They don't always have to be the big suppliers, but there is Carnivorous, Predatory Plants, Pearl River Exotics, Red Leaf Exotics, so these are going to be retailers that are buying from the wholesalers, and they are extremely reputable. But then there's also smaller groups like a Todd's Tropicals or Josh's Carnivorous Plants. All are great options. Todd's Tropicals is on eBay. I've used him a lot. He does an amazing job with his plants. Josh's Carnivorous Plants is a fellow YouTuber and also has a shop of his own on the internet, Josh's Carnivorous Plants, and his plants are magnificent. So there are many options. Now, some things to help you be leery of is when you're looking at things like a third-party site like an eBay, you want to be very careful. You want to make sure that you check the ratings, you want to check the reviews, and you want to check and see and make sure they're different reviewers. I tell you right now, you cannot go wrong with Todd's Tropicals on eBay and any of the other sites that I just pointed out to you. So once you've settled on the landscape and you've settled on the plant that you're going to buy, there's a few more things that you have to do. That's the first and hardest part. There is a ton, it's almost information overload. There's a ton of different plants, specifically hybrids. The sky is almost the limit. So what you want to do is understand your conditions, understand what you can offer a plant, and understand what your limitations are. So growing Nepenthes is not a difficult process. It's way easier to do than a lot of people give it credit for. However, you do need to do a little bit of homework and understand what your conditions are. Are you going to grow this in your home on a windowsill? That is going to greatly determine what you buy and how you take care of it. Are you going to grow it in a grow tent like this? Well, that again is going to greatly determine what you get. If you have a confined space, you want to look at those plants that are going to grow small. And if you have a much larger space, you have more freedom to buy larger plants. If you live in a cold environment, you want to look at more highland plants or even intermediates. And if you live in a very swampy, very hot environment, you may want to look at lowland plants. Now, all of that can seem very overwhelming, but lucky enough, all those sites that I listed off to you earlier all do an extremely good job of telling you in the descriptions what you should be looking out for and how these plants will grow and in what conditions they'll grow in. Several of them even go as far as to give you a temperature gauge and a humidity gauge. And so if you stay with those and those parameters, you will do just fine. So just like anything else, it's not always about the entire staircase. It's taking that first step. And these sites have done a very good job of helping you find out what that looks like. So next is do your research. So now that you understand where to get the plants and you understand what your conditions are, you want to try to understand what plant that you want to buy. So if you live in, like I said, a very hot environment that doesn't tend to get cold very often, then you're going to want to look at more lowland plants. However, there are some intermediate plants that will be able to last. Now, a lot of hybrids are a great choice because hybrids are a combination normally of lowland and highland plants that allow growers to be able to grow them with a very, very wide range. A lot of them will be able to survive as temperatures as low as 50 degrees and as temperatures as high as 100 degrees. Your highland plants and your ultra highlands, they need specific temperature drops during the night and they need a colder climate. And your lowlands typically want very, very hot, 90 plus degrees, 100 degrees, high humidity at all times. So do your research once you find the plant that you like. Do your research on the plants that you think are interesting. There's a plethora of knowledge out there on YouTube and throughout the internet. And of course, I will always be a resource for you. If you want to ask me, I'm always willing to help. The other thing is take your time. So buying a new tropical plant, specifically Nepenthes, is an exhilarating experience. It will, you will get out of it what you put into it. But one thing that you don't want to do is rush and get a plant that is not suited to your conditions, because it will soon not do very well for you, and you can become very turned off to this whole thing about growing Nepenthes. And I really don't want you to do that. Once you figure out the parameters, which is a lot easier than it sounds, it is very easy to grow them. So take your time and do your research. Consider the long run. Nepenthes tend to start off very, very slow. Most of them, some of them will stay small, like Campanulata or Gracilis, but most of them will start off very small, have a very slow progressive growth. And then when they hit about adolescence, about a year or two, they'll really start ramping up their growth. And so you want to understand what the plant you're buying, what is the long term. So for instance, owning this truncata here, I love truncatas, but you have to understand this little plant here will grow to 3 to 4 feet, sometimes 5 and 6 feet wide, and will have inflorescence or flower stalks reaching upwards of 5-6 feet alone. So you need to understand what you're growing and what the long-term commitment is with these. A lot of these plants will live for decades and decades and decades. And so if you want to grow with that plant, be able to provide it. And you may not necessarily have this space in that moment, but that's okay. Have a strategy for how you're going to up that. So I started off with a smaller tent, and now I'm in a larger tent, and soon this one will be full, but I have a exit strategy. I've got another area that I can also increase that. There are a lot of smaller plants, Aristolochioides, and a lot of plants are just as beautiful that will grow and provide great even in terrariums and in very, very small areas. All right, choose your size of your plant. Now, not only is there a ton of different plants to choose from out there, almost overwhelmingly so, a lot of suppliers offer different sizes. And so you need to find out and really assess what it is that you're looking for. How much time are you willing to devote to a plant taking time to grow? And so you have different choices all the way from seedlings, which are itty bitty, to extra small, to small, into medium, large, etc., sometimes XX, XXL. So understand that. This also comes into play when you're buying cuttings. Understanding that cuttings will be larger, and so you won't have to wait as long. So this goes in line with your area. You don't want to buy a large cutting if you don't have a lot of area, because it will fill that up very fast. So understand that. You will, obviously, the price decreases for the most part, with the smaller the plant, which is also often advantageous for people, including myself. But you have to look at time versus value cost and weigh that out for yourself. Know your setup. So what I like to do is whenever I know that I have a plant coming, I will already have the media ready to go. I will already have the pot ready to go. I'll have the media cleaned, ready to rock. I got everything wet. I've got a place in my grow tent for that plant. So the moment I receive it, I can go ahead and take it out of its packaging, get it right in, and reduce the stress. Now, we'll talk about that more once you receive your plant and what that looks like. All of this seems like a ton. It goes very fast, but it's just important that you have that in place so that you don't have a plant that might have spent upwards of 3-4 days to a week inside a dark box. You want to be able to get it in its conditions quickly. All right, get your area ready. So that goes in line with that. And this will be the last point that we touch on today before I end this video for the part 2. So part of that getting your area ready is what I just got done talking about with having a space. So this goes beyond just having a medium ready to go, your pot ready to go, and a space in your grow area, but have your grow area ready. If it's a windowsill, perfect, you're done. Just understand that if your plant, what kind of light it needs and what window you're going to put it in, depending on the amount of light it likes. But you can get grow lights, you can get your fans going. It is perfectly fine, and I say highly recommended to have your area ready to go before you have plants. That way you're not playing catch up and your plant, it transitions very nicely. A lot of these growers and suppliers have their plants in very high humidity and in perfect conditions. When they take those plants out of those conditions, they're putting that plant through a lot of shock. And so what you want to do is mitigate the amount of shock that goes through. And so you want to make sure that you have something ready to go, not just a pot, but a location for it and the proper setup for it. Now, everything I covered today seems like a lot of information. It seems like a lot of work. It is not. A lot of the setups and stuff like that, the first time you get it done, as long as you're staying within the same parameters, you will do just fine. Now, what you'll find is a lot of these plants, lowlands to highlands to intermediates, are very forgiving about where they fall on that spectrum of humidity and also of temperature. So you're not necessarily pigeonholed to one type of growth in the area. For instance, I have an intermediate grow house, but I can have everything from highland Nepenthes all the way down to bicalicata and different types of lowland species. So I highly encourage everyone to do the things that I've talked about. What I want to talk about in my next video again is what to do once you receive your plant. And so we'll talk about all the details of getting ready, getting prepared, and making sure that you have everything in place to get that plant, quickly get it transplanted and have it ready to go. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I've enjoyed this time with you. I hope that I've been able to impart something on you and that you've gained some knowledge from this. And if you would, please like and subscribe to this and then share the channel. Again, the ultimate goal here at CHM Carnivores is to spread the word about these magnificent plants, many of which are endangered and a lot, unfortunately, are critical, and some are even extinct in the wild, only grown by growers like me and like you. So spread the word. I hope you guys have a wonderful night. Have a wonderful week. See you soon. Bye-bye.